Hey, everybody, this is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the Amazon Prime show Vox Machina. So we're going to be talking about season one here today. The season two has started coming out. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I think there are 9 episodes out as of this recording for season two. But this specific episode is going to be about the first season of Vox Machina. So if you haven't seen season one, go check it out on Amazon Prime and then come back and see what we have to say about the show. But let's go ahead and get right into it. The thing that surprised me is that you asked to talk about this show, and I was very surprised because I had started watching the show like late last year. I feel like I was lucky because I didn't discover the show. I knew it was out, but I had this kind of weird thing about not wanting to support the show for like a specific reason, and then after that, I kind of changed my tune. But I started watching it, I think, back in November of last year, and like basically binged through season one in like a couple of days and was loving it, had so much fun. And then as soon as I found out that season two was coming out in just a couple of short months, I was like, I'm really happy I waited to watch this show because now I can just go right into season two. And I've been watching season two and been having a good time. But it surprised me when you said that you wanted to talk about the show because I had thought about mentioning it for us to like talk about at one point, and then I feel like I either just forgot or I wasn't sure if you would like it. But hearing you say that you wanted to talk about it, and I should have known that you would liked it based off of the other animated stuff that we've watched together that you have also liked. But I was very excited to hear that you wanted to talk about it. But how did you come across it? Like finally.
It's because the season 2 is coming out, and my boyfriend actually had seen season 1 already, back when it first came out, and he's
Mm-hmm.
also familiar with the YouTube channel
Critical
people.
Role.
I think it's Critical Role,
Yeah.
and they essentially are just a group of voice actors. For background, in case you didn't know, um, there are a bunch of voice actors that they get together, and they video themselves playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is what this show is about. And apparently, people loved it so much. People wanted them to turn it into an animation, and so they did a Kickstarter, which went very well, and that's how this show got created. And I think they're gonna do their second campaign as well.
Yeah, that's what they were just saying in the chat. And I did not watch Critical Role whenever they did their streams. I was aware of it. I know the voice actors. I know people like Matthew Mercer and the rest of them. But because I've heard them in like anime, they've done voice acting in anime and video games, and so like I know these like actors and actresses very well. But I had never watched their D&D campaign because up until recently I actually never played D&D, and I didn't really see the appeal in watching people play D&D. But also, so you want to know the real reason I started watching Vox Machina is because last year I played D&D for the first time, and I had a blast. And then I was like, I kind of felt like I wanted more D&D in my life, so I started doing things like playing different D&D based video games. Started researching like different D&D like characters and campaigns and stuff, and then eventually that got me to watch Vox Machina because I remembered that it was based off of Critical Role's D&D campaign, and I was like, this was like scratching that itch, and I was like just loving it. And then I eventually went back and actually started watching some of Critical Role stuff on Twitch and seeing how they do their campaigns and comparing it to how the campaign went that I was a part of, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like watching this animation is actually was actually a lot of fun for me too, because there's certain things that and I don't know, like, I mean, if you're watching this and you haven't played D&D, it might be a little hard to like relate. But although I think you would still like this show, I think if you actually played D&D at least once in your lifetime and then watch
Mm-hmm.
Vox Machina, you would be able to kind of like think about like you'd be able to imagine these people playing the campaign on tabletop, because essentially you have to roll well to make things happen. And there are
Yeah.
times where like everybody's like, you have this big party and like everyone's just trying to open a door, and that's like totally a thing in this season.
It really is.
Yeah, like
They
the
hate
damn
doors.
doors. Because
They
you
hate
have to
doors.
roll to open doors sometimes, especially if they're locked doors.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it just comes up. So there's this part in the seasons, kind of like later in the season, where they split the party, and there's like a front door team, and a back door team. And I can just imagine like the backdoor team, they're just struggling to open this door because they're like rolling. None of them can pick the lock. And then Percy's like, all right, I'm going to climb the up to the and
Right.
climb through the window. And
Window,
I'm like, all right,
window.
athletics roll. Fail because he fell critical fail because he fell down. And then I could just imagine the DM being like, all right, someone comes out.
Right, someone walks out of the door.
And to
Yeah.
throw a pail of urine out into their faces because they're
It's
being punished for rolling badly.
it's so good because you're right. Like you don't normally see like there might be some shows where they might write just constant failure into the scripts, but not often. So when you see these constant failures, yes, when you play D&D, you know exactly what it is. Like in the first episode, there's a point where Percy pulls out his gun and tries to shoot, and the gun jams, and I was like, that was a bad roll. So it is just it makes it so that like if you're aware of why these things would happen in a campaign, it makes it more fun and it makes it funny when you're watching it. And I think that if you're not aware, then it kind of just feels like maybe it's just quirky humor that the show is trying to do, which also does fit because this show has a very nice balance of humor and really good action. Like I was surprised at how much the action sequences were well animated and also just super exciting. Like I was actually getting hype watching the fight scenes, and it has good music. And I think one of the strongest thing that the show has going for it is the characters. Like our cast of 7 characters are all amazing. I mean, of course, they're amazingly voice acted. Meaning the people voice act their same characters from the show are in the show, and they all just have really great personalities that you can't help but like fall in love with.
Yeah, and that's the thing also about D&D is everybody creates their own character, and everyone pilots their own character. So you can make them be whoever you want to be. And that it becomes a very creative game, and that a lot of things happen while you're playing D&D that like you just can't come up with that stuff like because it just happens. And there's a lot of like impromptu things that you just kind of decide on the fly, and then it kind of builds up over time. And I still very feel very connected to my characters that I have created in the past, and like how I've developed like this whole backstory for them based
Yeah.
on like things and decisions that I have made while piloting my character while playing the game. So like, I mean, I want to say like you just can't make this stuff up, but you're literally making all this stuff up, and to put it and like to translate it into a show like this where you can actually see how fleshed out it is, it almost feels like it's more well thought out and planned, even though it's not, than like your average show. And I think like for so you know how like Pike's character is she gets like separated and
Leaves.
stuff. So I
Yeah.
believe that happened because that
She couldn't
actor
come.
wasn't playing
Yeah.
the D&D with the rest of the people because she was working recording Last of Us because she did the voice and mocap for
Yeah. Ashley Johnson is her name.
yeah
Mm-hmm.
for what's her name the for
Ellie.
Ellie for
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us. So it's I thought it was funny that like she was kind of MIA. I was like, oh, did something happened that's the reason why she kind of got split up from the party and then just comes back later. But then I also thought how conveniently inconvenient that
The healer,
their healer,
their
their
healer.
cleric, the one that does the best against the undead is like not playing the
Not
game, but then
there.
she comes back later. And like that's the
Oh,
kind of stuff like you just can't make that up because you know if she had been playing consistently with the others, then I think like, it would be a completely different story. It would be a completely
yeah.
different movie because she would be able to take care of the zombies no problem, and it wouldn't have been as dire. So it's like things like that, like life just happens. The game happens the way it happens, and then you end up with this really interesting output that becomes this really cool story that we get turned into a show. And I think that's the other cool thing is like it's like a dream for everyone that has played D&D to play it out and then be able to see it translated into an actual show. So I think that has a very big appeal to people who have played D&D.
Yeah, 100% agree. And even if you just love like RPGs, and the thing that is great, like we've been talking a lot about the show based off of the knowledge of a D&D lover, but yeah, and like you said, the hardest part about the D&D is getting the group together for the scheduling, and that's why like Ashley Johnson couldn't be there because she scheduling conflicts. So like yeah, that's half the battle. But it's always so fun because of the fact that like these stories kind of just develop, and then when you're in it, you almost feel like these stories could be a show or a comic or something like that. Like there's almost times you want to remember. Like I remember when I did my campaign, there was this cool moment where each and there were seven of us playing, so we had like seven people, just like in Vox Machina, and each of the people did something that contributed to the result of us defeating the enemy in that situation or whatever. And it's like that was cool. Everybody did something cool. That's awesome. And that's exactly what happens, like for instance, in the second episode of Vox Machina, and actually throughout Vox Machina, especially once they're all together again. When they fight the dragon in episode two, they literally all do something that contributes to them taking down the dragon, and it makes it feel like if any of them weren't there, they would have died. And that's one of the things that I really love about this show, just from the prospect of being a show, is that it takes this team of characters and it makes them not only all feel fun, but it also makes them all feel valuable. There are different moments in the show when I think that different characters are super powerful or too powerful than every other character. Like there's a moment when Keyleth single-handedly carries the team on her back when she has like her avatar level power up. But then there's other points when you realize that if the team did not have Pike, who is also astral projecting, so also not physically there but is still doing awesome, you're like, if they did not have Pike, all of you would be dead. So, and then you're like, oh, and then Grog seems like a stupid idiot. But then there are times when Grog literally is the only thing that can like just muscle through whatever they're fighting. So all of them have like their moments to shine, and that's one of the things that is just it makes it so much fun because no matter what character you latch on to as your favorite, or if you latch on to like multiple as your favorite or all of them, you get to see all of these characters that you love do something special and do something that makes you excited. And I think that's one of the things that continue to also carry through the show is that you don't feel like, for instance, when you watch certain anime, that characters kind of just exist just to like kind of be in the background. You feel like these characters matter.
Yeah, and I think part of it is because when you're building a campaign, you build it to the skill level capacity that the players have. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's it's kind of by design that it works out that way, where you actually need everybody on the team to successfully beat the campaign, and
Mm-hmm.
in every battle. So like it's just so weird to say like it's like planned but unplanned, and it just kind of works out. And sometimes like these campaigns really just tell the best stories because
Mm-hmm.
of how um it's just by design, but then it's also impromptu.
Yeah, 100%. And as far as like the story itself for the season, I was very surprised at where the story was going. So like it starts off with them having the very arduous task of having to kill a dragon. And the show starts off with a dragon basically murdering a different band of heroes, which is played out for laughs, but it also is meant to show you that dragons are hard to kill. And you later on see that dragon decimate an entire army. So like you get the sense that dragons are not something that are easily destroyed. And when our heroes that seem like a bunch of idiots have to like fight a dragon, you think, yeah, y'all are gonna die because you're a bunch of idiots. But the show shows that these characters actually can be good at what they do when they really put their mind to it. And they take out a dragon in episode 2. And that's only episode 2. The episodes then shift to telling the story about the Briarwoods, which are related to Percy, and in many ways, the rest of the season becomes about Percy's story, which I thought was very interesting because I wasn't expecting, I guess, any one character to have kind of like such a presence. And I remember asking my friend, like, what did they like? How did they do that? This person made their backstory separately. How did and it, like, does a DM know? And then he's like, and then they were telling me, yeah, the DM knows what your backstory is, and so the DM tied the backstory into like the full story, and was just like on one of the campaigns. So yeah, the Briarwoods show up, and then the guy playing Percy is like, wait, what? The Briarwoods? They killed my family. So like thinking that, and I think that that's really cool. So the rest of the season becomes about going like taking down the Briarwoods and taking Percy's home back from them and discovering his sister's alive and all this other stuff. Um, but that story in itself is still a very fun and interesting story to be told because it also links to Percy having a demon inside of him that he made a deal with that also makes him super powerful, but that he loses himself to. And yeah, it's like it's a very exciting season.
Yeah, it was actually when like I could kind of figure out what everyone's class is except for Percy because
And I
he's like
think I,
he has a gun and he's kind
I
of
think he
like
was a homebrew. I think he was a homebrew character, so they
yeah.
made him up.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because like everyone else is like a regular class, and then here you have Percy, and he's like steampunk, and he has like this really cool shotgun revolver kind of thing, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was really cool.
Right, him and his plagues mask.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
um,
so like, yeah, I just thought that that was very impressive.
the other thing that I really liked about the show, and just another reason where you could or another way that you could see how much of a passion project it was is the music because the music is
Yes, the music
great.
is
I love the
great.
theme song, and like the art that they use in the credits, like it's just one of those like the people that made it just had a blast while they were making it. um
Hmm.
but yeah, and they got a really good cast too for like the side characters. They had like an appearance from David Tennant, who played the
Hmm.
dragon.
Right, and Kari, I think it's Kari
Kari
Payton
Payton,
is doing the voice of of the king. I
the
think.
King Uriel, and then Gina Torres.
Yes, and Gina Torres is the older woman in the town. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good when you get big stars when you attract big stars like that to be in like one or two episodes.
Right. It was yeah, it's great. And these are also great like voice acting stars. Like we've heard Carrie Payton and Gina Torres in a lot of different animated stuff. And I haven't seen Gina Torres in as many live action things recently. We've seen Carrie Payton in like Walking Dead and stuff like that. But I feel like these actors are also very well known for their voice work. So it's exciting to hear them in this show along with all these other like very famous voice actors because a lot of the actors that you hear in this are people that are famous around the voice acting world but not necessarily people that you would see in live action movies and stuff. But it's very awesome to see such, like you said, a high caliber cast of actors and actresses in one place.
So I do want to talk about how this again is another animation that is not for kids.
Hmm.
There's some nudity, tons and tons and tons of violence and foul language. But one of the things that I wanted to point out that I was like, whoa, that's like super dark is the hanging bodies on the
Oh,
tree.
that they made look like them.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I think the thing that really got me that made it it made such a huge difference is that we actually meet those characters
yeah,
before they die. And then
yeah,
the only time you see them when they're alive is when they don't know what what the deal is, why they're being
yeah.
brought to
Lady
the
Briarwood.
castle or
Mm.
whatever. And then this little girl is like, "Did we win a prize?" And then um, Briarwood's like, "Yeah, yeah, you won a prize." And then the next time we literally the next time we see these characters,
At the end of the episode.
they are dead, hanging from a tree.
Made to look like our heroes just so that these people could send a message.
Yeah, and
Oof.
I was like, "Dang, this got so dark."
Right. But it's very good. Like you said, it's not for kids. And I think that I've lately really started. I was wondering about this today when I was rewatching some of Vox Machina season one, just so I could prep for this show. And I just watching scenes over again, I felt myself getting so excited and laughing. I watched the opening scene again from the first episode where they have the bar fight, which is our introduction to these characters, and it's literally one of the most ridiculous parts of the entirety of the show. I don't know. The show is pretty ridiculous, but I don't ever think it gets as ridiculous as that first episode. They almost feel like different characters to me looking at them in that first scene than later. But I mean, they even have a moment where Keyleth literally throws up into a horse's mouth, and I could see it was coming, and I felt myself cringing. And then when it happened, I was so grossed out, but I'm still laughing because it's funny. Um, and it's just, as I've been thinking about it more and more, I really do feel like because maybe of how we grew up in the 90s with like animation and how anime started coming into our lives like in high school, and then we carried that into our adult life. Um, I really have started to feel like I really enjoy animated shows on a different level than I do most live action shows. And that's not to say I don't enjoy live action shows, but it hits different. So like when I'm watching an anime or I'm watching Vox Machina or Young Justice or things like that, and specifically when they feel like they're more geared towards older teenagers to like adults like us, it just it just hits different. It feels exciting. It feels cool. They could do cooler things with animation than you can do with live action sometimes, especially on a TV budget. So whether like when I'm watching Arcane, when I'm watching Vox Machina, like these things just they evoke a different emotion in me when I'm watching them, and the level of I guess engagement and excitement that I feel when experiencing these animated shows just feels so different than how I experience anything in live action.
Yeah, and I feel like it really does give creators a lot of freedom in doing, it's not limitless, but there's a lot less limit to what you can do. And so there's just more freedom in being able to tell a good story
Yeah,
and make
maybe
it look
Rings of
cool.
Power.
Yeah.
Maybe Rings of Power should have been an animation. Maybe it would have been better. Yeah, she's like no.
But I agree. I do like. I like that we're seeing more adult animation. Like it really isn't for kids anymore, or not just for kids.
For kids, yeah.
And we're definitely seeing more and more of this. As we continue to do open discussions. So, and we just keep finding these. But I don't know about you. I'm super excited to watch season 2. I haven't started yet. I don't know if you started yet, but I'm super excited to see more Vox Machina, and I'm even more excited to see the next campaign because I watched a little bit of their
second
their
campaign.
second campaign YouTube, their tabletop version of it, and I'm they're very different people. Like you wouldn't be able to tell which voice actor is doing who, except for maybe Scanlan,
Interesting.
but but they're
Yeah.
good voice actors.
No, I mean that's why they're the best in the business. I have started watching season two. I'm actually almost done. I'm actually probably gonna watch episode 8 and 9 tonight before I go to sleep. Um, so like that's what I'm super excited for. There's some stuff that happens where I I was like I'm glad I have another episode because if I didn't I'd be upset right now. So you got some good stuff in front of you because you won't have to like wait a week. Um,
I heard it's
one of the cool
better than the season one.
it feels I I don't know if it's better yet. I'll see how it feels when it all comes together at the end, but it feels just as good. I wouldn't be able to tell you if like season one is better than season two or vice versa, but like I can say that I'm enjoying both of them equally right now. I think the animation has gotten better in season two, which is saying something because the animation is already pretty good. Um, and I think that overall, um, oh, I think that it also does something that you were mentioning with Andor that would have probably helped you when you were watching Andor. They've been releasing the episodes in 3 episode batches on Amazon Prime week to week. So they released episode 1 through 3 on Thursday night when it first came out, and then the next Thursday released 4, 5, and 6, and then they released 7, 8, 9. So I like that format only because and these stories aren't told in arcs. It's not like the story is done at episode 3, but it the way these stories play out, it just makes it more exciting because of the fact that if episode like 5 ends on like a super cliffhanger, you can at least go back into episode you can go to episode 6, but then episode 6 ends on a cliffhanger and there's no episode 7, then you still got to wait. So it's like this kind of fair medium of both worlds where you get your little bit of binge where you don't have to wait, but then at the same time you still kind of do. So but you coming into it right now, there are 9 episodes out. I think it might be a 12 episode season, so you'll have only 1 week to wait, or a couple of days at this point for the last 3. But it's going to be very exciting for you.
Oh, so what you're saying is we can do season 2 next week?
We actually could, if you really wanted to. We could just go right into season 2. I love this show. At the end of the day, like that's my biggest takeaway. The thing that I want to make sure that I like reiterate is just that it is a fun show. It is a good show. It is one of the best adult animated shows that's not geared around a comedy just being a comedy that I've ever seen. Like it's got comedic elements in it, but it's not only meant to be funny. It's got really good action. It's got really good characters, really good voice work, really good animation. It is just the total package when it comes to an animated television experience, and it's one of Amazon Prime's best shows. We'll see how things turn out when Invincible season 2 comes out, but I think as of right now, I actually like Vox Machina more than Invincible. But we'll see.
Oh, I didn't know we were comparing those two. Oof, that's a
They're very
toughie.
different. They're very
They're
different.
different. They're both good. I love Invincible, but that one's hard to swallow. Um,
It might be recency bias.
yeah. I mean, it's Invincible is not as fun, I guess you could say. It's more violent in my opinion
Yeah.
than Vox. Has a camaraderie. Um, it very much feels like there's a lot of it feels like there's a lot of times where a bunch of friends are just having fun together, and that's something that you don't get from Invincible. And I think that's just another way of saying that Vox is a product of collaboration, and without like the intention of trying to create something. Like it's a product of something that already existed, that was made for fun, as opposed to something that was crafted with the intent of telling a specific story. So I think that's the difference between Invincible and Vox Machina.
That's very no, that's well said. That's very true. And you'll so yeah, you're right. You'll get different things. And guys, it's not like one has to be better than the other. I was just talking about from my
You
personal
brought it up.
experience. I know, but I think that you're right how you explained it, Cheryl. Like they're very different, and you get different things because of like how they because of how they're made. And it all comes down to just like what you're looking for at the end of the day. But you can enjoy both of them absolutely. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to say real quick before we get out of here and start talking more on our Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/c3films? If you guys want to come and hang out with us on our Twitch, come check us out there. It'd be great to see you.
No, that was it for me.
All right, so we're gonna go get out of here. But that's what we thought about Vox Machina. We loved season one. We're eagerly looking forward to season two, or at least Cheryl's looking forward to season two. I've been enjoying season two, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. But what did you guys think about Vox Machina? Did you enjoy it? Did you think it was too violent? Did you think that the violence is great? Did you like the comedy? Do you love the characters? Do you like the voice acting? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you get to like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and I liked the violence.